Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining in to part 2 of my best Bitcoin price prediction series. First of all, a huge thank you to everybody for all the support, all the wonderful comments. There's no haters out there, which really surprises me, but people really like what I do and my approach and the way I look at numbers and everything else. So big thank you to everybody. Keep up the support. Second of all, this has motivated me to create a lot more content. I've got a lot more ideas. One of the pieces is actually doing another supply version, as well as another how to retire in Bitcoin version with some updated numbers and a global index, depending on where you are in the world, how many Bitcoins you need to retire. But let's jump in. Yesterday, we covered kind of some of my favorites in terms of valuations. Sorry about the noise quality. I was outdoors and I had a problem with the mic. But this time, I should be a little bit better. But we covered Raoul Pal and some other great individuals. This time we're going to go way deeper and way more into the future and talk about the next set of predictions. Please hold till the very end, because at the very end I analyze all of them, give them all weightings, and give my estimate of price every year for the next 17 years, based on all of these estimations and a few things I threw in as well. So it's an exciting time. But let's jump in. And first of all, we're going to talk about Citibank. So Tom Fitzpatrick of Citibank believes what's happening with Bitcoin is very similar to what happened with gold in the 1970s after a change in fiscal policy by the Nixon administration. Very interesting. He came out saying Bitcoin could hit $318,000 by 2021, which is huge. However, at pretty much the same day, some analyst down the corridor from Tom Fitzpatrick downgraded MicroStrategy to a sell, because he believed there was too much risk of them buying too much Bitcoin, which is kind of hilarious. You know, at the time, I think when this all happened, MicroStrategy was in the high 200s, and I became extremely bullish. And I believe there's ways of playing Bitcoin by what I call the fringe elements. You know, think PayPal, think Square, think MicroStrategy, think some of the ETFs that are out there. So you'll see more and more from that from me. But anyway, Tom Fitzpatrick, good guy, 318,000 by December 2021. But the big message here is don't trust the big banks and don't trust some of what Wall Street says. You know, you still have people out there valuing Tesla at $100 a share when it's breaking through 700. You know, it's craziness. Okay, so watch who you trust. Second is Pomp. If you know the space, Anthony Pompliano, earlier this year, early 2020, believed Bitcoin could hit $100,000 by the end of 2021. People thought he was a bit crazy. Now, all of a sudden, there's a funny meme up there. He's one of the more conservative people around. Good guy, but his whole thesis is based on demand, and demand rapidly exceeding supply. My next video will be going deeper into supply and analyzing who owns all the coins. Willy Woo is definitely the top economist in my mind in all things Bitcoin. Everything this guy puts out is extremely well thought out, really smart. I love the way he thinks. I love the way he looks at stuff. He put out a call of $200,000 being his prediction for December 2021, but believe it could also hit $300,000. Again, interesting fellow, good guy, worth looking at. Mark Yusko, the CEO of Morgan Creek, believes Bitcoin could pass $100,000 in 2021. And he did this when Bitcoin was only at $10,000. He also put in future price predictions of $250K by 2025 and nearly $500,000 by 2030 as it reaches what he calls gold equivalence. There's a lot of people that benchmark Bitcoin to gold or refer to it as gold 2.0. So he's one of those guys. Charlie Morris, interesting guy. He believes he has debunked Plan B. If you saw part 1, you heard me rave about how much credence I put into Plan B and how good his model is. This guy debunked it. His whole view of the world is the value of Bitcoin is a function of the money that transfers on the network. And believe it or not, his conclusion is very similar to Plan B's stock to flow conclusion. Plan B comes up with $100,000. Charlie Morris comes up with $96,000, again, based on money transfers. So interesting mix here of how people look at different types of things. let's jump ahead to Hong Fang. For 1 second, I'm going to digress here. I think about 98% of my viewers are male, only 2% are female. So I think there should be a lot more females in the space, and some of my favorite analysts are actually female as well. So I hope to hear more from more females out there. Anyway, Hong Fang, OKCoin CEO, believes, again, another gold person, that Bitcoin could reach 25% of gold market cap, or $100,000. Now, it's very important to look at the math of this. Gold market cap to some people is 9 trillion, others it's 10, others it's 11, others it's 12. It's hard to say. I tend to go with just 10 trillion. It's an easy number, and it's also approximate between the 9 and the 11. So think about that. If you do assume 25% of gold market cap, 10 trillion, you can do the math. 5x, if it is 25%, it'll actually be higher than $100,000. So I finesse all these numbers in my final calculations, as you'll see going forward. It's funny as well, there's a lot of 100K by 2021 t-shirts out there, and it's just it's a whole thing right now. Who would have thought? Well, stay positive and hang tight. We'll see what happens. JP Morgan, another interesting one. I think JP Morgan, Citibank, all these fellows, they believe Bitcoin could hit $650,000 by December 2022. This raised a lot of eyebrows on Wall Street, and it took a lot of people by surprise because JP Morgan is a top shop, and they see money flows, and they have their finger on the pulse of exactly what's going on. They are probably not as haphazard as folks like Citibank, although some of the JP Morgan analysts are not that good. Anyway, just my 2 cents. But this investment bank sees a pattern of investments coming in from institutions and a lot of treasury investments by MassMutual, MicroStrategy getting exposure, and they see a waterfall occurring, and that will really drive the price up in a big way. So Tim Draper, very interesting fellow as well. He's one of the top venture capitalists on earth. He made a prediction back in 2018, early 2018, that Bitcoin would hit 250K in 2022. Okay, very, very interesting. He came out recently, the day after Christmas Day, this year, saying 10x from here by end of 22 or 2023, which would be exactly where he was, 250K. So his thesis has not changed. He believes Bitcoin is one of the greatest technological advances, and he sees a lot of these that humanity has ever seen, and it will change society. He believes it's the Facebook of decentralized currency. Very interesting fellow, smart guy, 250K in 2022. I think you can take that to the bank. Mike Novogratz, another guy that benchmarks Bitcoin to gold. He believes we could easily hit 3% of gold's market cap by December 2022. That would take us to 65K. Pretty conservative. Philip Swift, he looks at on-chain volume and the Willy Woo model, and he believes by October 2023, the range of Bitcoin will be between 92,000 and 137,000. Interesting range. I like people that play ranges, because if you come out with a very accurate prediction, you're never going to be right. Unless, of course, you're Max Kaiser on Christmas Day, which was pretty incredible. Cathie Wood, again, my favorite analyst of them all. She works in 5 different models. I covered them actually in my first video back on October 7th, when I believed Bitcoin would reach a certain amount by the year 2030. Her price prediction is Bitcoin may top $500,000 by approximately 2025. And their thesis behind why is unbelievable. And I could talk for 2 hours about all the components, but either way, I think this is one also you can really take to the bank, and I place a lot of credence in this number. Bloomberg, Mike McGlone. He's a funny fellow. His whole thesis, I don't know if it's really his thesis or not, but he did mention it, that he likes to add a zero to the back of the number every 2 to 3 years. So if Bitcoin was $17,000 in some time during 2020, which it was, he believes in 2 years, add a zero. So 17 will go to 170 based on his historical experience. So again, interesting fellow. Max Kaiser, kind of the granddaddy of all things Bitcoin. He's been pushing it since 2011, urging everybody to buy and making enemies of people like Peter Schiff and others. He's a very outspoken individual, a little bit eccentric, but smart. And his price predictions tend to be pretty good. So he says 2023, and he's got tons of price predictions, but 2023, $400,000. And that is pretty incredible. He bases his thesis on hash rate. Final slide in this chunk. Kiana Danielle, the Invest Diva, $100,000 by 2025. But apparently she's also revised $100,000 by 2021 as well. So the Winklevoss Twins, they believe, like many others, that Bitcoin will flip gold. Some people call it the flippening. They believe gold is worth 9 trillion. And if Bitcoin becomes as valuable as gold at the same market cap, Bitcoin will be worth $500,000 by 2025. They came out with this thesis quite a while back, and now a lot of people are piggybacking on it. So again, very interesting, pretty reliable perhaps. We'll see. Wences, an interesting guy. He has tremendous experience. We're talking about on the board of PayPal, Zappo, Ikigai Asset Management. He kind of knows a lot about this whole space, and he calls it a supranational currency that would sit on top of all national currencies, all fiat. And if Bitcoin succeeds, it could be a global non-political standard of value and settlement. Huge play, very influential. He's the guy who is behind PayPal getting in on Bitcoin. Peter Smith, the co-founder of Blockchain, his estimate is $397,000 by 2030, quite conservative. He bases it on a lot of on-chain kind of metrics. Jeremy Liu, kind of big mobile guy, big investor in Snapchat, and he believes Bitcoin could hit $500,000 by 2030. His whole thesis is growing mobile penetration, increased digitization of transactions, and of course the user network growing to about 400 million users. Remember my part 1, I talked about Metcalfe's law. Think about Metcalfe's law and 400 million daily active users. That would be way more than $500,000. The Kraken, let's release the Kraken right now. Jesse Powell comes out with $1 million by 2030. And that's just from all the stuff that he sees in terms of adoption of digital currencies around the world. Shamath, our very last one. Shamath Palahapitiya, Sri Lankan guy, extremely smart. He is revising the way venture capital works. He basically told everybody on live TV, everybody should have 1% of their assets in Bitcoin because it's a fantastic hedge. And in 2017, this is an old one, he told CNBC Bitcoin would be worth $1 million by 2037. He has other estimates as well. He might bring that forward, but interesting one. Okay, this is a function of how much utility there is in terms of the use of Bitcoin as a function of the total addressable market for transactions. And you'll see, based on this, that there is a little bit of slowdown from 2025 to 2033. In fact, the price actually goes down beyond 2030. And when I saw this, it kind of resonated with me because I believe a lot of people have a 5 to 10 year horizon. And I believe a lot of people will be selling in the year 2030 just to be able to retire early, buy a house or buy a yacht or whatever the case may be. And that could explain the 2033 dip when it'll go more, the utility will increase, but the store of value story could decrease, bringing it down. So something that I can get my head around and relate to, and I thought it was very interesting here. So now, as promised, everybody, this is the money shot. All right. So I took all my favorite price predictions from 2021 to 2037, and I mapped them out in a chart and created a line. This is a logarithmic line of a kind of an average, a weighted average of where I believe the price could be quarter to quarter for the next 17 years. I know it might be hard to zoom in, but you'll see like the JP Morgan estimate is a bit of an outlier, and Wences is $1 million, and Jesse Powell $1 million by 2030, and Shamath $1 million by 2037. Your different utility discounted ones, your gold proxy, Winklevoss Twins, a lot of gold stuff in here, your Raoul Powell, Plan B, ARK Invest, etc. So super, super interesting where all of this goes. And the end story is the prediction of price year to year. So bringing all this together, I believe in the year 2021, Bitcoin could hit $206,000. Okay, considering it's nearly 30,000 today, that's in a 6.5x next year. That would be staggering. But then again, the amount of money flowing in is staggering. And as I've said, if you've seen any of my videos, what fascinates me is the scarcity, the crazy, crazy, crazy scarcity of the supply of Bitcoin. Other numbers that are there: 2022, 335, 2023, 374, 2024, 418, 2025, 451. 2025, a lot of people are calling for at least $500,000 or $1 million. I have it at 451, which is a little more conservative. 2026, 476, all the way to 2030, which would be 551. And then gradually going up to 647 by the year 2037. So there it is, everybody. I've been crunching these numbers for a long time, at least 11 or 12 months. I have a massive spreadsheet with over 200 price prediction models in it. I pick my favorites and put them all out here and give them my little weighting or tweak to try and make sense of it all. So would love your comments below. A lot of good stuff coming. Please hit the bell, like, subscribe, and place all your questions and comments about, do you believe in this? Do you think it's too low, too high, too crazy? Again, this is based on a lot of experts averaged out over time. So if it's off, it means all the experts are completely wrong. We'll see. Definitely, firmly believe we'll see at least 115,000 next year. Very conservative. Take that to the bank. So when people think, oh my God, why should I buy Bitcoin at $28,000? It's too expensive. Don't think about the $28,000. Again, this is not investment advice, but think about the future value of Bitcoin. Yes, it would have been nice to buy it $9,000 or $3,000 or something like that, and that's okay. But even buying at $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 is still relatively cheap when you can pretty much guarantee you're going to 3x it next year. Just look at the historical returns on Bitcoin over the last 12 years. Pretty staggering. Okay, my next video is who holds the coins. I've done a detailed analysis of all the holdings of all the richest people. And again, that ties into the whole supply, and it'll go to the base of exactly who has the coins, how many are left, what the ratios are of the highest net worth individuals, what it takes to be in the top 1%, takes to be a Bitcoin millionaire, etc. After that video, I'm revising my how to retire on Bitcoin with a set of global indices and my new forecasts on price. So again, please subscribe. Thank you for getting this channel off the ground, and hit me up with a comment of what you'd like to see next. Happy New Year, everybody. 2020, despite all of the C19 stuff, was a rough year for many, but it's also been a life-changing year for many. So stay safe, and remember, health is wealth.